You're 19 years old today, Aurelia. Your last morning as a daughter. The room is cold despite the brazier burning in the corner. Pale light creeps through the window shutters, casting thin lines across the floor of your father's domus. You've been awake for hours, lying still, listening to the household slaves, preparing for what comes next. The wedding. Your wedding. The word sits in your stomach like a stone. Your mother enters without knocking. She never knocks anymore. Why would she? By sunset, you won't be hers to protect. Her eyes are red swollen from crying she thought you couldn't hear through the walls last night. She carries a wooden comb, the one her mother used on her wedding day and her mother before that. The weight of generations. She sits on the edge of your bed and her hands tremble as she reaches for your hair. You want to ask her why she's shaking, why she cried, what exactly happens tonight that has carved these shadows under her eyes. But the question dies in your throat because you already know the answer will terrify you. Do not resist, she says. Her voice is barely a whisper. Whatever they require of you tonight, do not resist. The words hang in the air like smoke. They, not he, not your husband. They, who are they, you ask? She doesn't answer. Her fingers work through your hair, sectioning it for the traditional braiding, and you feel each pull like a countdown. Outside, you hear men's voices, the arrival of supplies, the beginning of something unstoppable. Your mother's hands move faster now, almost frantic, as if she's running out of time to prepare you for a test you don't understand. You think back to 6 months ago, the day your father called you into his tablinum, his private office where he keeps the household accounts and contracts. You remember the smell of beeswax tablets, the afternoon light making dust motes dance in the air. He didn't look at you when he spoke. I have arranged your marriage, he said, to Gaius Cornelius Maximus, a senator, a widower of good family. The contract is signed. The dowry agreed upon. 50,000 sesterces. You stood there barefoot on cold marble, trying to process the numbers. 50,000 sesterces. The price of your transfer from one household to another. You wanted to ask if you could meet him first, this Gaius Cornelius Maximus, but your father's expression told you the question was irrelevant. The contract was signed. Your future was ink on wax, sealed with as ring binding as any law. Later you learned more. Gaius was 44 years old, 25 years older than you. His first wife Livia had died 3 years ago, attempting to give him a third son at the age of 39. The labor went badly. Both mother and infant perished. He had 2 adult sons from that marriage, both in their 20s. Older than you would be their stepmother. The thought made you laugh, once a bitter sound that scared you. But the worst part, the detail that kept you awake at night, was this. You would not meet Gaius until the wedding ceremony itself. Roman tradition, the bride and groom encounter each other for the first time at the altar, strangers bound by their father's signatures. Now the day has arrived. Your mother finishes the final braid and steps back. You catch a glimpse of yourself in the polished bronze mirror. The saffron veil draped over your elaborately braided hair makes you look like someone else. Someone older, someone resigned. The morning rituals begin. The auspices must be taken, the omens read. A white lamb is led into the courtyard. You watch from the doorway as the priest slits its throat, studies the pattern of blood on stone, examines the organs for signs from the gods. He nods. The omens are favorable. Of course they are. They're always favorable when enough money changes hands. Your father approaches, and for the first time in your memory, he looks uncertain. He places a hand on your shoulder, a gesture so unfamiliar it makes you flinch. You bring honor to this family, he says. The Cornelii are a powerful house. Your children will have opportunities we could never provide. Your children, not you, never you. The ceremony begins in the afternoon. The atrium fills with guests, their voices echoing off marble columns. You stand in the back room surrounded by female relatives who adjust your veil, your stola, your jewelry, their hands on you like you're a doll being dressed for display. Through the doorway, you can see the crowd gathering. So many witnesses. Rome loves witnesses. Then you see him for the first time. Gaius Cornelius Maximus. He's tall, his hair more gray than black, his face deeply lined. He stands near the household shrine flanked by his 2 sons, and he looks tired. Not cruel, not kind, just exhausted. Like a man who has been performing the same duty for so long, he's forgotten why it mattered in the first place. When your father leads you forward, Gaius glances at you briefly. His eyes are dark, unrevealing. He doesn't smile. The priest begins the formal words. The joining of two families. The blessing of Juno. The sacred trust of marriage. You speak your vows, the words you've memorized, and they sound like someone else's voice. Gaius speaks his vows, and his voice is flat, mechanical. When he takes your hand to place the iron ring on your finger, his skin is cold. The crowd erupts in cheers. Someone throws walnuts, the traditional symbol of fertility. They scatter across the floor like tiny prophecies of the children you're expected to produce. The celebration begins in earnest now. Wine flows, food is served, musicians play. Everyone is laughing, singing, congratulating your father on such an advantageous match. But underneath the celebration, you notice something else. The older women, the ones who have been married for decades, they watch you with a particular expression. Not joy, not excitement, something closer to pity, or perhaps remembrance. They know what comes next. They all know. As the sun begins to set, the traditional procession starts. The guests spill into the street, forming a raucous parade to escort you to your new home, your husband's home. They sing as they walk, but these aren't gentle wedding songs. They're obscene, graphic, shouted instructions about what will happen to you tonight. The lyrics make your face burn. Your mother walks beside you silent, her hand gripping yours so tightly it hurts. This is to ward off evil spirits, someone explains. The laughter, the crude songs, they keep away bad luck. Maybe. Or maybe it's just an excuse for grown men to humiliate a teenage bride in public, to mark this transition with maximum degradation. You decide it's the latter. The procession reaches Gaius's domus, a massive structure that makes your father's home look modest by comparison. The crowd gathers at the threshold, shouting encouragement, making lewd gestures. Gaius appears in the doorway. According to tradition, he must carry you across the threshold. The gesture is supposed to be romantic, symbolic of his protection. But you know the real history. Brides used to be dragged inside whether they wanted to enter or not. The rape of the Sabine women, the founding myth of Rome itself, kidnapping dressed up as marriage. Gaius lifts you easily. You're surprised by his strength. He carries you over the threshold and the door closes behind you. The crowd's noise becomes muffled, distant. Inside, the sudden silence is suffocating. The atrium of your new home stretches before you, lit by dozens of oil lamps. Shadows dance on the walls. And then you see them, the people waiting. A tall woman in her 50s, her face carved from stone. 3 female slaves holding basins and folded cloth. A priest muttering prayers to himself. An older man with a leather bag at his feet. And in the corner, a draped figure you can't quite make out. 7 witnesses stand along the wall, silent, watching. Gaius sets you down. Your mother is not here. No one from your family is here. You are alone with strangers whose faces reveal nothing. The tall woman steps forward. Her name is Claudia, and she speaks with the authority of someone who has done this many, many times. I am the pronuba, she says. I will guide you through the rituals of this night. You will obey every instruction without question. Do you understand? You nod because what else can you do? Gaius stands off to the side, not meeting your eyes. He looks as uncomfortable as you feel, which surprises you. You expected confidence, control, the bearing of a man claiming his property. Instead, he seems uncertain, almost boyish in his awkwardness. Claudia's hand grips your arm firm and controlling, and she guides you deeper into the atrium. The witnesses follow. Their footsteps echo on marble. You notice the physician watching you with clinical detachment, and something in your chest tightens. This is the moment you understand. This night is not about love, not about partnership, not even about religion, despite all the prayers and rituals. This night is about verification, documentation, proof you are not a bride, you are evidence. Claudia stops you in front of the draped figure in the corner. She nods, and one of the slaves hands you the edge of the cloth. Unveil him, Claudia commands. Your hands shake as you pull the fabric away. Underneath is a wooden statue carved with surprising detail, and your breath catches when you realize what you're looking at. A phallus, a massive wooden phallus mounted on a pedestal carved to represent the god Mutinus Tutinus, the deity of fertility and sexual initiation. The slaves set the basins down nearby. The priest steps closer, beginning a low chant. The witnesses position themselves for optimal viewing, and Claudia begins to explain in calm, terrifying detail exactly what you must do. The god Mutinus Tutinus must be honored before your husband may approach you, she says. This is sacred tradition older than Rome itself. You will perform the seated offering. You will ask for his blessing. You will offer yourself as custom requires. The words take a moment to penetrate. When they do, when you fully understand what she's asking, your knees weaken. This isn't symbolic. This is literal. I don't understand, you whisper. Claudia's expression doesn't change. You will sit upon the sacred figure. You will demonstrate your devotion to the gods of fertility. This has been done by every bride of good family since the Republic began. You are not special. You will comply. Your mother's warning echoes in your head. Do not resist. Whatever they require. The witnesses step closer, not to help, to observe, to record. 7 pairs of eyes fixed on you waiting for your submission. The priest's prayer grows louder, invoking Mutinus Tutinus, asking for fertility, for healthy children, for the blessing of the old gods. His voice is bored like he's reading a list. Even the sacred words sound like paperwork. You look at Gaius hoping for intervention, for mercy, for some sign that this is optional. He stands in the shadows, his face turned away. He won't save you. He can't. Or won't. The distinction doesn't matter. But Gaius sees you looking at him, and for a brief moment, something crosses his face. Not pity, not desire. Something closer to recognition. He's standing exactly where he stood 25 years ago, watching a different bride, a different wooden god, a different set of witnesses. Livia had been 17, dark-haired, trembling, her eyes wide with the same terror he sees in yours now. And now here he is again, 44 years old, trapped by the same traditions that trapped him at 19, watching you approach the wooden god the way Livia once did, and he feels the same impotent shame rising in his chest. He wants to tell you he's sorry, that he knows this is wrong, that if he could change it, he would. But Rome doesn't change for one man's conscience. Rome doesn't change at all. It just continues grinding girls into wives generation after generation, and men like him facilitate it because refusing would cost them everything. He turns his face away again, unable to watch, even though he knows he's a coward for looking away. At least the witnesses have the honesty to stare directly at what they're complicit in. He can't even manage that much. Claudia's hands grip your shoulders from behind, positioning you, guiding you like you're a piece of furniture that needs to be arranged just so. No gentleness, no privacy, just hands and commands and eyes. The wooden god waits. You close your eyes and obey because rule number 1 in Rome is this: keep your head down and your mouth shut. And rule number 2, the one you're learning right now, is even simpler. If you refuse, you pay. Rome never pays. The ritual is over in minutes, but it feels like hours. When Claudia finally allows you to step away, your legs barely support you. The slaves rush forward immediately with warm water, washing you, cleaning you, resetting you for the next phase. Their movements are practiced, efficient. They've done this for other brides. They'll do it again tomorrow. One of the slaves hands you a cloth to dry yourself. Her eyes never meet yours. She's seen this before. She's become immune to the humiliation, or she's learned to hide it so deeply you can't tell the difference. The physician steps forward next. His name is Quintus, and he's older than your father, his hair tied back with a leather cord. He carries that bag you noticed earlier, and when he sets it down, you hear the clink of metal instruments inside. He doesn't greet you, doesn't introduce himself. You're not a person to him. You're a case, a file, a legal matter requiring documentation. I examined you this morning before the ceremony, he says to Claudia, not to you. The examination confirmed virginity. That record has been sealed and witnessed. Now I will conduct the secondary examination to establish the baseline before consummation. The baseline. Like you're a surveying project. Like your land being measured for a property deed. Claudia nods to the slaves and they guide you to a cushioned bench. The witnesses shift positions for better visibility. The priest continues his monotonous prayer. And Physician Quintus opens his bag, removing instruments you don't recognize, tools that gleam in the lamplight. The examination is clinical, detached, thorough. He narrates his findings in short-clipped phrases meant for the witnesses, not for you. A scribe stands nearby with a wax tablet, scratching down every word. The sound of the stylus on wax is worse than the examination itself because it means this is permanent. This is record. This will exist in your husband's archives forever. You are property being verified before purchase. Except the purchase already happened. This is the receipt. When Quintus finishes, he wipes his hands on a clean cloth and makes his formal statement. Examination complete. Status confirmed. Record entered. The witnesses nod. That's what they came for. Claudia announces that the preparation rituals are finished. The next phase begins. They take you to the bedchamber. The room is large, dominated by a bed draped in fine linens. Oil lamps line the walls, casting dancing shadows that make the space feel smaller than it is. And the door you notice with creeping horror has been left open. Wide open. The witnesses file into the hallway just outside. Close enough to hear, close enough to testify later if needed. Privacy is not part of the contract. Gaius enters. He's changed clothes, wearing a simple tunic now instead of his ceremonial toga. He looks at you, finally really looks, and you see something in his expression you didn't expect. Fear. He's afraid too. He sits on the edge of the bed and the frame creaks under his weight. For a long moment, neither of you speaks. The silence stretches, broken only by the breathing of witnesses in the hall, the crackle of lamp flame, the distant sounds of the city beyond these walls. Claudia appears in the doorway. She clears her throat, a sharp sound that makes you both flinch. Her meaning is clear. Get on with it. Gaius reaches for you hesitant, and his hand hovers over your shoulder before finally making contact. His touch is gentle, almost apologetic, but it doesn't matter. Gentleness can't change what this is, what this represents. I will try to be quick, he whispers. It's the first thing he said directly to you all day. The first acknowledgement that you're a person capable of feeling pain. You don't know if it makes things better or worse. You lie back on the bed because there's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. The sheet beneath you is rough despite its fine weave. Your hands grip the fabric knuckles, white as if holding tight enough will keep you tethered to something, anything. Gaius positions himself over you, still glancing toward the doorway, where Claudia stands like a disapproving teacher waiting for a student to complete an assignment. The witnesses lean forward slightly, listening, documenting. This is Roman marriage. The consummation is not a private moment of intimacy. It's a legal step in a transaction. The signing of a contract, except the contract is your body and the signature is written in pain. Gaius enters you and you bite down on your lip to keep from crying out. Not because you want to be brave, because you know the witnesses are listening for sounds, for proof, for the noises that confirm consummation occurred. You refuse to give them the satisfaction. It doesn't last long. True to his word, Gaius is quick, efficient. When he finishes, he pulls away immediately, almost violently, like he's ashamed of what he's done, or ashamed of how little he felt while doing it. Before you can even process what just happened, the slaves are already entering with their basins and cloths. The system runs on precision, every step choreographed, every movement practiced. But the night isn't over, not even close. Physician Quintus returns, and now comes the part that makes every previous humiliation feel like preparation. The final verification. He approaches the bed with the same clinical detachment he showed earlier. No sympathy, no averting his gaze, no pretense of discomfort. Why would there be? To him, this entire night is just a sequence of medical checks. Claudia steps aside to give him better access. The witnesses crowd the doorway. You pull the sheet over your legs instinctively, modestly, but Quintus gestures for you to move it aside. You obey because obedience is all you have left. He opens his leather bag again. More instruments. The metal clinks softly. You feel heat rising to your face, your throat tightening until you can barely breathe. Gaius stands near the wall, rubbing his hands together nervously, and you want to scream at him, to leave, to help, to do something, but he just stands there frozen. Quintus begins the examination. He's efficient, methodical, speaking his findings aloud in staccato bursts meant for the scribe's wax tablet. The words wash over you without meaning. Medical terminology, legal language, proof. You flinch once involuntarily, and Quintus pauses, but not to comfort you. He looks annoyed, as if your body's natural response to pain is an inconvenience in his workflow. Claudia watches with arms folded, her expression completely blank. She's seen hundreds of brides in this exact position, Whatever you're feeling right now, she felt it decades ago and buried it so deep she can't access it anymore. Or won't. Finally, Quintus steps back. He wipes his hands carefully, meticulously. Then he makes his formal statement, the words you've been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. Consummation verified. Record complete. The witnesses nod as one. That's what they came for. Not your safety, not your well-being. The proof, the documentation, the legal certainty that you are now officially, irrevocably your husband's property. The slaves begin cleaning up folding linens, refilling oil lamps. The efficiency is remarkable. They move like they're closing down a shop after a normal day of business, not walking through the scattered pieces of your shattered childhood. Claudia dismisses the witnesses. They file out already whispering to each other, comparing notes, ensuring their testimonies will align if they're ever called to court. The scribe closes his wax tablet with a definitive snap. That sound, that small click of wood on wood, feels like the closing of a door you can never reopen. Gaius exhales heavily, a sound of profound relief that tells you everything. For him, this was an ordeal to survive, an uncomfortable duty finally completed. He can go back to his normal life now. The unpleasant business is finished. You're still sitting on the bed, still clutching the sheet, still trying to assemble your scattered thoughts into something coherent. Your mind feels like broken pottery's sharp edges that don't fit together anymore. Gaius approaches you again, but his posture is different now. Hesitant, almost apologetic. You should rest, he says quietly. Tomorrow will be easier. You did well tonight. The words are meant to be comforting. They land like stones. You did well, like you passed a test, like you successfully completed a task, not like you're a human being who just survived something traumatic. You can't answer. You don't trust your voice not to break, not to reveal the screaming chaos inside your chest. Claudia orders 2 slaves to bring you wine. Strong wine, she specifies. The kind meant to force sleep despite the storm in your head. The kind that will make you forget temporarily that your body now officially belongs to someone else. Gaius leaves the room. His footsteps echoed down the corridor, fading into the vast emptiness of this house that's supposed to be your home now. You listen until you can't hear him anymore. You're finally alone, or as alone as a Roman wife can ever be. One of the slaves who brought the wine doesn't leave. She sits just outside your line of sight, stationed in the corner. In case you need anything, Claudia said. But you understand the real reason. In case you try to run, in case you break down loudly enough to disturb the household, in case you do anything that requires intervention. Even in your own bedchamber, you're never unobserved. You drink the wine. It's thick, sweet, strong enough to make your head swim almost immediately. But it's not strong enough to make you forget. Nothing could be. You lie down on the bed on top of the sheets, now staring at the ceiling beams. The oil lamps flicker, making shadows dance across the plaster. Somewhere in the house, you hear the steady drip of a water clock, measuring time with relentless precision. Time moves forward, always forward, never back. Your mind replays the night in excruciating detail. The statue, the witnesses, the examinations, the hands positioning you, checking you, approving you like merchandise. The cold efficiency of it all, the complete absence of humanity in a ritual that's supposed to create human life. You curl onto your side, drawing your knees toward your chest, but even that small movement sends an ache through your body. The sheet smells like oil and smoke, and the faint metallic trace of Quintus's instruments. A silhouette appears in the doorway, Claudia checking on you one final time. She doesn't speak, just stands there backlit by the hallway lamps watching, assessing whether you've broken yet, whether you'll need correction in the morning, whether you survived. Then she nods to the slave in the corner and leaves. The door stays ajar, always ajar. A Roman wife's privacy is a myth, a fairy tale told to girls who don't know better yet. Hours pass. The household gradually settles into silence. The slaves retire to their quarters. The lamps burn lower. Night embraces the domus completely. And with that silence comes the thoughts you've been trying desperately to suppress. This wasn't your wedding night. This was your initiation, not into love, not into partnership, into a system older than any temple, harder than any law, colder than any Roman winter. A system built on verification, observation, control. A system where your body is evidence, your value is documented, your transformation legally recorded. You understand now why your mother cried while braiding your hair, why the older women at the ceremony looked at you with pity. They all went through this, every single one of them, and they survived. And now it's your turn to survive. You close your eyes, but Rome is still there. Behind your eyelids, you see Claudia's blank face, Quintus's clinical hands, the witness's hungry stares, the wooden god demanding tribute. Sleep feels impossible. A soft sound at the doorway pulls you back. Gaius clearing his throat softly. He's not here to touch you again. Not here to apologize or explain. He's here because custom demands one final check on his new wife before the night ends. One more box to tick on the endless list of marital duties. He stands in the doorway, shifting his weight from foot to foot. In the dim lamplight, he looks older, smaller, diminished somehow. Not the powerful senator who stood at the altar, just a man who completed an unpleasant task and doesn't know what to say about it. Rest, he murmurs. Tomorrow truly will be easier. The worst is behind you. You don't answer. You're not sure you believe him. You're not sure he believes himself. He lingers for a moment like he wants to say something more, something real. But Rome has trained him too well. Trained him not to question the system that shaped him. Not to see you as anything other than a wife, a duty, a legal obligation, a vessel for his heirs. He leaves. The silence returns heavier now. At dawn, footsteps wake you. Soft voices, the household stirring. Duty never sleeps in Rome. Claudia arrives first, of course. Her eyes sweep the room, taking in your pale face, your exhausted expression, the disarray of the bed. She nods once satisfied. The transition is complete. Slaves bring warm water, scented oil, fresh linen. You're washed again, perfumed again, dressed again, rebuilt into the proper shape of a Roman matron. The girl who entered this house last night is gone. In her place stands a wife, but the rituals aren't finished yet. There's one final task. The witnesses reassemble in the atrium for the morning affirmation. Formal testimony, legal closure. Physician Quintus reads from his notes a short clinical summary of the night's examinations. Claudia delivers her testimony as pronuba, confirming that all rituals were performed according to tradition. The witnesses nod their agreement, ready to testify if ever called upon, and then Gaius signs the wax tablet. You stand beside him silent, an accessory to your own documentation. When he presses his seal ring into the soft wax, the mark it leaves looks like a brand. The tablet is carried away to be filed with Gaius's other household records. You watch it go, knowing where it will end up. In the tablinum on the shelf with contracts for grain shipments, land boundaries, debts owed. Your wedding night reduced to 3 lines on wax stored between a slave purchase agreement and a property deed. Your first entry in his archives. A piece of verified property. The household begins its normal daily rhythm. Slaves sweeping floors, merchants arriving with deliveries, cooks preparing the morning meal. Life goes on. For everyone else, this is just another day. But for you, standing in the doorway of the bedchamber where everything happened, the world has fundamentally changed. The bed is freshly made now. The lamps are extinguished. The instruments are gone. But the memory is carved into the space like graffiti on a tomb wall. Later, Gaius gives you a tour of your new home. The domus is massive, far larger than your father's house, with multiple wings, private gardens, an elaborate bathing complex. He shows you the kitchen where slaves prepare meals, the lararium where you'll pray to the household gods each morning, the tablinum where he keeps his accounts. In the tablinum, you see the shelf. Your tablet sits there filed neatly, spine out. Next to it is another tablet labeled Purchase of Syrian Slave Girl 86 CE. You are property. She is property. Same shelf. 2 of Gaius's sons appear during the tour. Both in their early 20s, well-built, well-dressed, clearly uncomfortable. They're older than you. You're their stepmother. The absurdity of it would be funny if it weren't so tragic. The older one, Marcus, barely looks at you. The younger one, Lucius, offers a stiff greeting and then excuses himself quickly. You can see it in their eyes. Pity mixed with disdain. They know what happened to you last night. Everyone knows. That's the point of witnesses. On the 3rd day, Claudia returns. She brings gifts, expensive cloth, and jewelry, but also brings instructions. Your real education begins now. She sits with you in the garden, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap, and she explains your duties as a wife with the same clinical detachment Quintus used during his examinations. Your primary duty is to produce legitimate heirs, she says. Sons, preferably, but daughters are acceptable. You must conceive within 2 years or risk divorce. If you are divorced, your dowry stays with your husband as compensation for his wasted time. You will return to your father's house in disgrace. She continues, your husband may take concubines. This is his legal right. You may not object. You may not refuse him when he desires you. This is your legal obligation. Adultery by a wife is punishable by death or exile. Adultery by a husband is simply life. Every word is another lock clicking shut on a cage you didn't know you were entering. Do you understand? Claudia asks. You nod, because what else can you do? She stands to leave, then pauses. I have guided over 200 brides through their wedding nights, she says. You are not special. You are not unique. You will survive because they survived. And when you are my age, you will guide other brides. This is how Rome endures. The words are meant to be comforting. They're not. They're a prophecy, a curse, a promise that you will become her, cold and efficient and dead inside, perpetuating the same system that broke you. Over the following weeks, you learn the rhythms of your new life. You wake before dawn to pray at the lararium. You oversee the household slaves, manage the kitchen, plan meals, inventory supplies. You attend social gatherings with other wives, listening to their careful conversations about nothing important, because important conversations are dangerous. Gaius comes to your bed irregularly without pattern or warning. Sometimes he's gentle, sometimes he's perfunctory, sometimes he's drunk and fumbling. It never gets easier. You learn to leave your body during these encounters, to float somewhere above yourself, watching from a distance as he uses what belongs to him by law. At night, when you're alone except for the slave girl who still sits in the corner watching you, allow yourself to think about the life you might have had. If you'd been born in a different time, a different place, if marriage were a choice instead of a contract, if your body were yours instead of your father's gift to your husband. But these thoughts lead nowhere productive. Rome is Rome. The system is the system. You are one girl, one wife, one piece of property in a vast empire built on exactly this kind of transaction. 3 months after your wedding, you discover you're pregnant. Gaius is pleased. His sons are pleased. Your mother, when she visits, weeps with relief. You've fulfilled your primary function quickly, efficiently. You're a good investment. You feel nothing. Or maybe you feel everything, but it's buried so deep you can't access it anymore. The physician, a different one this time, examines you regularly. More hands, more instruments, more verification that the child growing inside you is developing properly. Because even pregnancy is a legal matter in Rome. The child must be legitimate. The timeline must be clear. Witnesses must be prepared to testify to conception dates if inheritance is ever challenged. You carry the baby to term. Labor is long, painful, terrifying. Claudia attends, of course, supervising the midwives with her usual cold efficiency. When the baby finally comes, when you hear its first cry, Claudia holds it up for inspection. A son, she announces. Gaius is summoned. He examines the infant with the same clinical detachment Quintus once used on you. Then he nods. He is accepted into this household, Gaius declares formally. The baby is taken away to be washed and wrapped. You lie back exhausted, bleeding, knowing you've done your duty. You've produced an heir. Your value has increased. Over the next 5 years, you give birth to 2 more children. Another son, then a daughter. Each time the same rituals. Each time the same clinical acceptance from your husband. Each time a piece of you disappears, buried under the weight of duty and expectation. You watch your daughter grow, this little girl with dark curls and curious eyes, and you feel a grief so profound it threatens to drown you. Because you know what's coming for her. In 11 years, maybe 12, she'll be old enough to marry. And the cycle will continue. One morning when your daughter is 12 years old, you wake to find Gaius in his tablinum reviewing documents. He calls you in, and your stomach drops before he even speaks. I have received an offer for Cornelia, he says, using your daughter's name. Marcus Valerius Priscus, a rising senator. His family is well connected. The match would be advantageous. Cornelia is 12 years old. You are 36. 17 years have passed since your own wedding night, but you remember every second as if it happened yesterday. The contract would be signed now, Gaius continues. The wedding would occur when she reaches 15. His household is prepared to accept her. You stand there, your hands clenched at your sides, and you think about your daughter. Sweet Cornelia, who still plays with Miles, who asks endless questions, who doesn't yet understand what it means to be a woman in Rome. In 3 years, she'll be in a room like yours was, with witnesses, with a pronuba who might be you, with a wooden statue and a physician's instruments in a stranger's hands, claiming ownership of her body. And you'll be there, guiding her, teaching her not to resist, becoming Claudia. This is the moment, the choice you've been avoiding for 17 years. You can be the pronuba for your own daughter, perpetuating the system that broke you, ensuring the cycle continues. Or you can be the mother, the first mother in your family line to say no to, refuse to break the pattern, even knowing the consequences. If you refuse, Gaius can divorce you. You'll lose your children. You'll return to your father's house in disgrace, if he'll even take you back. You'll be ruined, unmarriageable, a cautionary tale. If you accept, your daughter becomes you, and you become Claudia, and nothing changes. Ever. You open your mouth to speak, and Gaius waits, and your daughter is in the garden playing, and Rome stretches out around you like a vast machine that eats girls and produces wasps and turns mothers into collaborators. But here's the truth about history, the truth about this story, the truth about the choice you're facing. No Roman woman's refusal was ever documented. Not once, not in 500 years of this ritual. The archives contain countless records of marriages, consummations, verifications, but not a single record of a mother who said no, of a woman who chose her daughter over the system. Maybe it never happened. Maybe every mother made the same calculation you're making now, weighed the costs, and chose survival over rebellion. Or maybe it did happen, and those records were destroyed. Maybe some mothers refused, and their stories were erased because Rome couldn't allow even the possibility of refusal to be documented. Couldn't let future women know that resistance was an option. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. You stand in your husband's tablinum looking at the shelf where your own wedding night is filed between property deeds, and you understand finally why the system works so perfectly. Because it's not just enforced by men, it's enforced by law, by tradition, by economics, by the fundamental structure of Roman society itself. The laws go back centuries. The 12 tables carved in bronze in 450 BCE established marriage as a transfer of property from father to husband. A woman's body was never her own. It belonged to her father until he sold it through dowry to her husband. The Lex Papia Poppaea passed in 9C made it even clearer. Women must marry, must produce children. The law incentivized childbearing, penalized childlessness, made fertility a legal obligation. Because Rome needed soldiers, needed citizens, needed a constant supply of legitimate heirs to inherit property and continue family names. And without the ability to verify paternity through blood tests or modern science, Rome demanded absolute certainty through absolute control. Virginity at marriage, witnesses to consummation, physicians documenting every step. Because if a child's legitimacy could be questioned, entire family fortunes could collapse in legal challenges. Your wedding night wasn't cruelty for cruelty's sake. It was the enforcement mechanism of a legal and economic system that required women to be property. That required your body to be documented, verified, and controlled. And that's why no mother's refusal was ever recorded. Because refusing didn't just mean losing your daughter. It meant challenging the fundamental legal structure of the most powerful empire in the world. It meant declaring that women were people, not property, that our bodies belong to ourselves, that marriage should be choice, not contract. Rome couldn't allow that, not in the laws, not in the archives, not even in whispered stories passed from mother to daughter. History doesn't record what you chose. History doesn't record the names of the girls who became wives in rooms with 7 witnesses and cold marble floors. History doesn't record the sound a mother makes when she realizes she can't protect her daughter from the same fate she suffered. But the rituals are recorded. The laws are preserved. The system is documented in meticulous detail. Augustine of Hippo, writing 300 years after your wedding night, described the mutinus tutinus ritual with shock and disgust in his work, De Civitate Dei, written between 413 and 426 CE, he called it obscene, he called it degrading, he called it a mark of pagan depravity that Christianity would erase. But even Augustine didn't record the women's names, didn't preserve their stories, didn't document their pain except as evidence of why the old gods needed to be overthrown. The ritual existed for over 400 years, from at least 300 BCE until Christianity became Rome's official religion under Theodosius I in 380 CE. 400 years of brides approaching wooden statues, 400 years of witnesses and physicians and documentation, 400 years of girls becoming property. By 400 CE, the practice had largely disappeared from patrician families, but no official ban was ever recorded. It simply faded as the old gods fell silent, replaced by a new god who had different requirements for women, but who still ultimately demanded their submission. You are Aurelia. You are 19 years old on your wedding night. You are 36 years old standing in your husband's tablinum, being asked to sign away your daughter's childhood. You are every Roman bride who walked into that room with 7 witnesses and walked out as property. You are every mother who had to choose between protecting her daughter and surviving herself. This is your story, the one that wasn't written down. The one historians can only guess at by reading between the lines of legal documents in angry Christian writings and archaeological evidence of wooden statues found in household shrines. This is what they hid for 2,000 years. Not just the rituals, not just the statues and the physicians and the verification process, but the truth underneath it all. The truth that marriage in Rome was not a sacred bond between equals. It was a legal mechanism for transferring ownership of women from fathers to husbands. It was a system designed to ensure paternity, certainty, property inheritance, and social control. And it was maintained year after year, generation after generation by the complicity of mothers who had no choice but to guide their daughters into the same rooms where they themselves were broken. The wooden statue of Mutinus Tutinus is gone now, lost to time or destroyed by early Christians. The wax tablets documenting consummations have crumbled to dust. The witnesses are 2,000 years dead, but the system they serve, the fundamental truth about power and property and women's bodies as legal currency that survived long after the statues were toppled. That survived into medieval marriage law, into coverture, into modern legal systems that only recently began to recognize women as something other than property. You are Aurelia. You are every woman who came before you and every woman who came after you. You are the hidden history, the story that wasn't told, the voice that wasn't recorded. This is your wedding night. This is your truth. This is what Rome made of you. And this is what they hid, not because it was unusual, but because it was normal. Because if they documented the truth, if they preserved the pain, if they let the screams echo through history, future generations might ask dangerous questions. Questions like, what gives anyone the right to own another person? What makes marriage a contract instead of a choice? Why do we accept systems that break people just because they have always existed? Rome never answered those questions. Rome just filed the paperwork, sealed the tablets, and moved on to the next transaction. But you remember, even though your name isn't in the archives, even though your story was never written down, even though 2,000 years have buried the details of your particular night in a particular house with a particular God, you remember. And that memory, that truth, that hidden history, that's what survives. Welcome to Roman marriage. This is what they didn't teach you in school. This is what the museums don't display. This is what was hidden for 2,000 years. This is your story. And it's finally being told.